Okay, Tom, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, great. So let me just minimize this, move that out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to give you a demonstration of the new user interface of the WebGrant software. So as I go through this demo, I'll kind of try to highlight the differences between the systems. So fundamentally, the software is the same. You know, it has the same basic concepts, it has the same basic modules and workflows and functionality as the current version. But there are some enhancements and new features and capabilities. I won't be able to discuss all of them on this particular meeting, but I think that this demo will give you kind of a high-level overview of what to expect in the new version and what kind of high-level features and capabilities the new version has. So the screen that you're looking at right now, this is the login screen. So this is the screen where users will log into the system. So, you know, once again, integration with single sign-on is possible. It's a more streamlined methodology to integrate with single sign-on because there's a single sign-on module that is embedded into the new version. So it does not require customization to integrate for the most part. But right now I'm going to log in with user ID password authentication. So I'm going to log in as an internal person. And when I log in on the internal side, the first thing that I see is the dashboard. So the dashboard is new functionality. So there was a rudimentary dashboard in the old version, but the new version has a much more sophisticated dashboard that gives you a lot more information on a personal level. So before I describe this dashboard, I'm going to just describe the overall layout of the screen. All of the screens follow the same basic layout. So at the top of the screen here, there is a white bar, and in that bar there's a WebGrants logo. That logo will be removed and replaced with your own branding. And then below that, in this black box, we have the name of the individual who's currently logged in, the type of user that they are, and their security access roles. And then over here in this gray area, we have the name of the screen. So we're currently on the work assignment screen. And then we have some secondary navigation. And then below that, there's a toolbar, and that toolbar has a back, print, help, alerts, and logout. And then on the left-hand side here, we have the main menu. So this is a difference between the new version and the current version, is that the main menu is not a screen that you have to return to. It is an ever-present left side menu that is available all the time so that you don't have to click back to return to the main menu. So the modules that are on here are the dashboard. So the dashboard gives you information that is relevant to you personally. It will display work that has been routed to you or upcoming deadlines that you need to be aware of. The people and the organizations modules, these are fundamentally the same. There isn't a whole lot of differences, but I will highlight some differences in the organization module. Internal grants, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is a module that allows you to support functionality where you are the grantee. So if you are applying for opportunities from grants.gov, it would facilitate that kind of functionality. So that might be something that you may be interested in the future. The awards module is fundamentally the same as what is in the current version of the software. I will quickly go through those screens and show you what the new award module looks like. The funding opportunities, there's a few differences between the current and the new funding opportunities that I will highlight. But essentially, this is where you would create a funding opportunity, post it online, and the applicants can then view those funding opportunities and they can apply. The storefront that exists in your version is also available here in this version as well. So you can post opportunities to the storefront without actually having the program implemented in the WebGrant system. Submitted applications. So submitted applications is where you would find those applications that are submitted, and you can then route those applications back for corrections, make comments, and then move them on to the review process. So the review process has changed quite a bit. The functionality is the same, but the navigation and the way that you assign evaluators to applications has changed, and the way that you review the applications has changed. So I will go over that functionality during this demo. Grant tracking, there's quite a bit of improvements here in the grant tracking in terms of navigation and in terms of functionality. So there's many more built-in components that come standard with the software that facilitate various parts of the grant tracking that I will discuss during this demo. The inventory module, so this has been completely revamped. So there is inventory in the current version, but the inventory in the new version has been completely overhauled, and there's a lot more features and capabilities in the inventory module that I will discuss when we get to that point. The reports, the paper reports have been completely overhauled. The paper reports weren't really very good in the current version, but in the new version, they are of really good quality. Ad hoc reports is essentially the same, but there is a few new capabilities there. And then there's also data-only reports, data export, and there's letters as well, which is, I believe, something new. And then the utilities module, where the system administrator can configure the software. I will touch on some new things that are available. The form creator has a lot more capabilities. So there's a lot more features and capabilities in the form creator that I will talk about during the course of this demo. Okay, so on the dashboard that we arrive on when we first log in, there's a number of sections. The first one is approaching deadlines next 30 days. So this is going to display to you documents that you are named on that have a deadline within the next 30 days. So these could be applications, status reports, site visits, claims, whatever that may have an approaching due date. Below that, we have document approval inbox. So as you know, you can have a document with a multi-level approval process, and when that document gets to your level of approval, then that document will appear on your dashboard. And then you can approve or not approve that document and move it on to the next stage in the workflow. Recent negotiations last 30 days. This is going to indicate to you any documents that you have negotiated. So these could be applications, status reports, claims, site visits, whatever that you negotiate back. That will appear on your dashboard to remind you of the negotiation. And if you're the recipient of that, that will appear on your dashboard as well. My Site Visits inbox, if you are a site visitor, then your site visits will appear on your dashboard, and then you can click on the site visit forms and complete them when you do the site visit and submit those site visit forms. New user list, this is going to be for if you are in charge of approving newly registered users, then that section will appear on your dashboard, and then you can approve or not approve newly registered users. The quick reports is favorite reports. So customers create many ad hoc reports, hundreds, even thousands sometimes. And so some reports get lost, and so you can have them be favorites, and then those favorite reports will appear on your dashboard. The next module is a calendar. So the calendar displays the exact same information as what was on the work assignment screen, but it displays it in a calendar format. So kind of like a Google Calendar or an Outlook calendar, events will appear on your calendar. And some people prefer this layout as opposed to the list layout because they can see kind of what's coming up in a calendar view. Next, we have alerts. So all of the automated email alerts that the WebGrant software sends out will be retained inside the system, and then you can search and you can look at a complete history of all the alerts that you have received. Sorry. Next, I'll go into the People and Organizations module. So the People database, fundamentally, there's not a lot of differences here, just in terms of the style and look and feel is a little bit different, but the functionality is basically the same. You can search for people by the alphabet. You can search by the advanced search, which has a little bit more fields on it, and you can also search by name as well. And then we can click on a particular person, and that person has a profile which can be edited by the system administrator. So this is kind of the look and feel for forms that are edited in the new version of the system. So this is the layout of the person's profile, And then you can configure other aspects of the person. So you can modify their dashboard, you can connect them to agencies. So if you have a multi-departmental implementation, which you do, here you would get a list, and in your case this would be a long list of agencies where you can associate the user to one or more agencies, and then that individual can only view data pertaining to those agencies. And then once again, you have program areas. So here you can assign access rights by program area and only grant access to those programs that the individual needs to see. Roles. There are many more privileges in the system. There's approximately 140 privileges, which I think is, in the current version, there may be about 90, something like that. So there's about 50 more privileges. So quite a bit more is available in the new version. So you can grant access rights at a much more fine level of detail. So you can create roles, and then those roles, once they're created, can be assigned to the various individuals. Alerts, you can subscribe to automated email alerts that are sent out by the system. There are many more alerts, not tremendously more, but there are more alerts in this new version than there were in the current version. So I don't know, maybe about maybe less than 10 or something, or 10 or so new alerts that are in this version as opposed to the current version of the software. And then back on the individual's profile, you can look at their alert history. You can look at their document history. You can see the applications they submitted, the grants that they were awarded in the past. And then you can also merge duplicates. And then below the profile are the organizations that the individual belongs to, attached files, and inventory items that are connected to this particular person. Next, we have the organizations database. This is once again very similar to the current version. There's a couple of major differences in the organization in the new version, and that is that you can do site visits at the organization level. So that's something I believe that is new. You can create a site visit, and you can assign a site visit, and a site visitor can complete the site visit and submit it at the organization level. So you don't necessarily have to do it at the grant level, although that functionality is still there. You can do it at the organization level. The other new feature at the organization level is compliance. So there is a compliance monitoring feature that is available in the new version that allows you to have attached files with deadlines. And so if, for example, if a grantee has uploaded their insurance information or board of directors list or articles of incorporation or something like that, that may have an expiration date, that expiration date will tie into the alerts, and they will receive automated alerts that their attached files are about to expire. And if their documents expire, then there's a concept in the software called a good standing flag, and the good standing flag can trigger to be negative, and if that is true, then you can have consequences in the system. And consequences can be things like they can no longer apply to new funding opportunities, or they can no longer submit payment requests or claims. And so there's a concept of a good standing flag that is new, and there's consequences that can be enforced. And this also ties into the encumbrances that are in grant tracking. So it's a more holistic kind of view of compliance monitoring inside of the system. Other than that, the organization module is pretty much the same. You have the organization profile, you have the alert history, document history, you can merge duplicates, you have the associated people, attached files, and inventory as well. Next, I will go into the award module. The award module is not really very different. It's fundamentally the same as it is in the current version of the software. You can add an award at any point in time. You can click on a particular award. The award will have a profile. It will have a status, a number, name, program area, additional programs, award type, benefactor, CFDA number, pretty much the same capabilities as you have in the current version. And then you can subdivide it various different funding sources, and we can click on a particular funding source, and sorry, is Tina trying to call me?
Totally by accident. Keep going.
Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry. Okay, so the funding source can be created for different purposes to fund grants, revolving accounts, loans, admin. The coding block relates the money in your financial accounting system, and then the software will keep track of the uncommitted, committed, expended, unexpended amounts. And then if we click on the grants link, then we can see the current projects that are being funded from this particular funding source. And these numbers here are roll-up numbers, so they're dynamic and they appear in real time and show you kind of a financial dashboard of the amount of money that you have available. Next, I will go into the funding opportunity. So the funding opportunity is pretty much the same, but there are some new capabilities in the funding opportunities that I will highlight. So here you can add a new funding opportunity at any point in time. Each funding opportunity will look like this. So this will be the preview of the funding opportunity. So it will have a name, it will have the high-level information, the program officer, a description, attached files, website links, and any question and answers that have been posted to the funding opportunity. So here we can edit the funding opportunity, and when you edit the funding opportunity, you see the various components of the funding opportunity. We can click on these components. So something new that has been added to this version of the software is that once you click into a component of any document, you get this secondary navigation up here. So here you can jump to the various different components without having to return to the list. So it's just a time-saving device, really, for users so that they can navigate. And down here at the bottom, there's a next button and a previous button, so you can navigate sequentially through the components that make up a document. So this is true for applications, status reports, claims, site visits, pretty much any kind of document that is in the system. So here on the general information of the funding opportunity, you can specify the status, the title, the program area, the program officer. You can offer a pre-application with a pre-application deadline, a final application with a deadline date and time, and you can specify the project start date and award announcement date. Business rules, you can do things like you can specify the minimum and maximum amount that can be requested. You can allow them to submit questions, reuse old applications, use inventory items. You can specify the business rules on the review process, approval level, and status report rules, and other business rules as well. The description, there is I believe this is a new rich text box, although I'm not 100% sure about that. But this rich text box is a good quality rich text box. It allows you to really format your text very nicely with bold, underline, italicize. It also allows you to embed images, multimedia files, and so you can really embed a lot of things into the rich text box. It makes it a better experience for the user and has more capabilities. Then you can attach any number of electronic files and website links as well. And then once you have completed the funding opportunity, you can then post that funding opportunity online. And then we'll go into the submitted applications where the applicants will submit. I'll also log in as an external user when I get to the end of the demo if there's time. So here on the submitted applications, you can see the list of current funding opportunities. So you see the funding opportunity names. Something new here is that you can see how many applications are in the various different statuses. So how many are in editing, submitted, correcting, and other. And then you can click on the funding opportunity, and then you can see the application. So you can see the status, the submitted date, the title, organization, applicant, and so on. And then here we can click on the application, and then we get the application information. So we see the high-level information, the contact information, and then we see each application section. So this is kind of like the new look and feel for the applications that will be submitted to you. So of course, this is a demonstration application, so this does not look exactly like your applications, but your applications will come over through the data migration from the old version to the new, and your applications will appear in this interface. So once you have the data copied over, then you can look at the attachments in isolation, so you can view attached files by themselves. You can look at an alert history of correspondence between you and the grantee. You can map the application using Google Maps. This can be either addresses or coordinates. And then you can negotiate the application. This is a very similar functionality to what you currently have. You can negotiate the application by unlocking one or more sections of the application, and you can specify a deadline date and time for when you would like the applications to be returned. You can type in a message, and you can also upload a file. And then once you send this, the software will send an automated email alert to the applicant telling them that their application has been unlocked. The applicant will then revise their data, and then you can look at the versions. The versions capability is the same, but it gives you a little bit more information. If you click on a particular version, you can see the high-level information, you can see the version information, and more information like this information over here and this information over here is captured by the system. So it will capture initially submitted, most recent submission, and every single submission in between. So the audit log capability in the new version is greatly enhanced. Every single action, or pretty much every single action, is logged by the system, and there's a standard report that will allow you to generate reports on the audit log, and so there's a lot more recording and audit log capabilities that are built into the system, and much of that is displayed here for you directly on the screen. So you can see a lot more about what's going on, who did what, when it happened, and all of those types of things. So that is a feature that's been greatly enhanced in this new version. You can withdraw the application for whatever reason. This is the same. You can make notes. You can type in your notes, your name, the date, and your message will appear, and it will get routed with the application. And you can also provide feedback as well. And then when you're satisfied that the application is of good quality, you can then release it for review, and that will move it on to the next module. Now, this module has been changed quite a bit. Static panels is essentially the same. I'm not going to go into that. I will go into the panels module. So here, the first thing that we see is a list of the current funding opportunities. So we click on a particular funding opportunity. So now we see all the applications together. So in this drop-down list box, you can separate the applications by round, but by default, you see all the rounds together. So you don't have to click into a round and go back and click into another round and so on. Here in this interface, you can click on round 1, you can click on round 2, or you can view all the rounds together. And so this is a more streamlined a way of looking at the applications that have been submitted. And so here you can select the applications, and you can select them across rounds even. So you don't have to select them round by round. You could select all the rounds together. And so here you can select the applications, and then you could click the Reviewer Assignments button. And then this will show you the applications that you have selected. And then you can assign a reviewer or a panel. So if you assign a reviewer, then you would locate that person by clicking them, by locating them from the people database. So the people database will pop up in a new window here, and then you can locate that individual. You can click on their name will appear in the box. You can give them a deadline date for when you would like the evaluations to be completed, and this will tie into the alerts, and they will get automated email reminders telling them that their due date is coming up. You can then mark them as internal, external, primary, or secondary, and you can save them, and then they would be assigned to these 3 applications. So in this fashion, you can assign all of your evaluators to your applications, and then once you have assigned all of your evaluators, you can then notify for review, and that will send an automated email alert to those evaluators, and then those evaluators would then log into the system, and they would go to their dashboard, and from their dashboard they would click on My Reviews. And here they would see an inbox of the applications that have been assigned to them. So here they would see the due date, the title, organization, and so on, and they would click on a particular application, and now the application is displayed in one window. So in the past, there was 2 windows. The application or the review popped up in one window, and the other one was in another window. And that was sometimes problematic because people would lose the window, it would disappear behind some other window or something like that. So now everything is flat. It's all self-contained in one window. And so here you can see the application in the center column, and over here on the right, the review forms will kind of follow you. So as you scroll, they'll scroll too. And you can click the review into the review form, and then you can see the review form as it was created by the system administrator. And so here you have yes/no questions, you have numeric input questions, you have drop-down list box questions, and then you also have comments as well. And so here the evaluator would then enter in their scores, they would select their drop-down options, and they would submit their evaluations. Now, here in this view, the application is a little bit scrunched up, so this button here allows you to hide the main menu. So you can click that button, and then you can pop this out, and then you get a much more, and you can also make this thing scroll, and then you get a much more more real estate to view the application, and the evaluation form will follow you as well. And so this is so there's no danger of losing something or getting confused or anything that sometimes happens in the current version of the software. So when this is submitted by the evaluator, then I'll go back into final approval. So internal staff would go into final approval. So here, once again, you would see a list of the current funding opportunities. You would click on a particular funding opportunity, and you would get a list of the applications, and you would see their round scores, so the average score created by the system. And so here you can click on that score, and you can drill down, and you can see the evaluators that have submitted their evaluations, and those evaluators that have not yet submitted their evaluations. So for those evaluators that have submitted their evaluations, you can click on their form, and you can drill down, and you can see the answers that they gave to each individual question and comments and so on. And so you can see the raw data for that particular person. If we go back to the list of applications in the reviews column, you can click the reviews link, and you can see all the evaluations by all the evaluators for that particular application. So there's a couple different ways that you can drill down to that data. You can also edit this list, and you can type in some short notes on each application. You can specify an internal status, a temporary internal status, and the contents of that dropdown is maintained by the admin. And then you have the final score. The final score can be used as an overall consensus score. You can also negotiate the evaluations back to the evaluators if you would like them to change their scores, or if they want to change their scores. And then you have the ultimate status of the application, which is currently in under review, but you can change it to approved, awarded, or not awarded. So if you change it to awarded and you click save, then the software will create a grant. So next we will go into grant tracking. So the grant tracking screen has a search screen where you can search across a wide variety of fields by number, status, title, name, organization, program, year, and then we can do a search, and we get back a list of grants that match that criteria. And then we can click on a particular grant, and then we drill down into the grant itself. So you're familiar with this form here because this has the grant components. There are a few new grant components that I will highlight in this system. And also there's a couple of new columns here. One is called a source and one is called a security. The source column indicates to you where that component came from. So there's little icons, the little orange gear will indicate that it's a system component, a built-in component that comes standard with the software. And then you have the little green arrow. This indicates that the component was copied from the application into the grant. So this component originated in the application and was then copied into the grant. And then you have the icon that will show you that it's a user-defined form. This means that it's a form that was created in the form creator by the system administrator. So these icons are there to remind you. Sometimes it's difficult to remember where exactly the data came from and how it got into the grant. So these icons are here to remind you how exactly that happened. And then you have the security. The security will indicate mostly where from the perspective of the external user. And so here you have the icons that denote that it's a grantor edit only, which means that the external user can see it, but they cannot edit it. The grantor only means that the external user cannot see it at all, and the grantee edit means that the external user can both see it and edit it. Okay, so I will go into these components. So the first one is the general information. So the general information, most of this information is copied from the application. So here you have the grant number, the grant title, the status, the year, the organization, the primary grantee contact, additional grantee contacts, primary internal contact, additional internal contacts, the set received, executed, and legal dates, project start and end date, and comments. Next, we have the scope of work. So this is an example of a component that originated in the application, but was then copied from the application into the grant. And then you can create a new version, you can look at the versions, and you can also negotiate the form. So all of those are capabilities for each component of the grant. You have the budget that is copied automatically from the application into the grant. You have the fund sources. This is mostly the same as what is in the current version of the software. You can add fund sources. So here you can add, and you can add any number of fund sources from the application. I'm sorry, from the award. You can add any number of fund sources to your grant. And so you can click save, and then those fund sources would now be connected to your grant. And then you can edit those fund sources, and you can allocate or earmark a certain dollar amount to fund the project. There's also a priority order. There's a priority order, and there's a priority percentage. The priority percentage is not here in this demo, but a priority order allows you to specify the order to draw down the money. So if you wanted to use old money first or new money first, you can set up a particular priority order. You can also set up a percentage. So if two fund sources are at the same priority level, then you can have different percentage distributions, like 50-50 or 70-30 or 60-40 or something along those lines. And so then you can save those funding sources, and then the coding block, the transfer log. The transfer log is more enhanced. So it will capture more information, it will capture more changes and more edits to the funding source. So that ties into the enhanced audit log capabilities of the software. So the auditing capability is much more enhanced, and every single action that a user takes is logged, and those actions can be generated on a report by you, and so you can see exactly what happened, when, who did it, what they did, all that kind of stuff. Next, we have a new component called a contract. So a contract is based upon a contract template, and a contract template is created by the system administrator in the utilities module. So a contract template will be a boilerplate contract that has a number of legal terms and paragraphs and things. Within this document, you can have variable placeholders, and those variable placeholders will resolve kind of like the substitutions in your alert management module, very similar to that. But you can bring in not only fields, you can bring in entire form sections. So you can bring in the contact information, you can bring in the budget, you can bring in fund sources, you can bring in the scope of work, you can bring in pretty much any aspect of the grant into the contract, create a fully formed contract, and then you can then route that contract for signatures. So you can create a multi-level signature process between both internal and external users, and then those individuals can then sign the contract electronically, and they can enter in some comments, and then it will go to the next level of signature. So you can create and sign a contract self-contained within the system. Next, we have the objectives. So this is very similar to what you currently have. You can have aspects of the application that are copied from the application into the grant, and then that data can then be further copied down into each grant subdocument. specifically the status report. So if the applicant says, okay, I'm going to do A, B, and C in their application, then A, B, and C can automatically appear on their status report without having to do any data reentry or verify that it's correct. Next, we have the encumbrances. So the encumbrances are very much the same as what you have in the current version, but the consequences are globally enforced. And so you can have consequences like they can no longer submit claims, or they can no longer apply to new funding opportunities. And this ties into their organization level good standing flag as well. Status reports can be scheduled. You can schedule your status reports, and then the status reports can be submitted by the user. Status reports can differ by type. So you can have various different types of status reports: quarterly, interim, final, whatever, various different types of status reports. And each one of those status report types can have different forms and different functionality. And then you can route the status report through a multi-level approval process until ultimately that status report is approved. Next, we have claims. So there are two types of claims. There are payments and there are reimbursements. Payments can be scheduled as a lump sum or an advance or as a periodic payment. And then you have reimbursements. Reimbursements can be, will then automatically recreate the budget. You will enter in the expenses this period, and the software will calculate the prior expenses, the total, and the available balance. And then when you create the voucher, the software will create the payment authorization form with a batch name, the account code, and the vendor ID, the invoice posting date, the paid date, and the check number. And then the allocated fund sources is a recap of the fund sources that have been allocated to this particular project. And then you have the reimbursement distribution, where you can distribute the money across multiple fund sources. There's also, this can also happen automatically, so you don't necessarily have to go in and edit the voucher every single time. You can programmatically execute the distribution of funds according to business rules by priority, percentage, and so you don't necessarily have to do this manually, but this capability is still there in the system. And so then that will get integrated with your financial accounting system. Next, we have the communication component, the non-system communication log, where you can record important conversations that happen outside of the system. You have the inter-system grantee correspondence, where you can communicate back and forth between yourself and the grantee, and you can have a back and forth dialogue between you and the grantee. You have site visits. The site visits have some new capabilities. One is that they can be done at the organization level, but another is that you can create site visit forms and send them to the grantee to prepare them for the site visit. You can also send site visit forms to the grantee post-site visit for them to show corrections and remediations during the site visit that the site visitor found. Next, you can have contract amendments, and this can be routed through a multi-level approval process. Inventory items can be associated with the grant, and once those inventory items are connected to the grant, then they can appear on all the sub-documents. So they can appear on status reports, claims, site visits, contract amendments. So if you go and visit a site and they have a piece of equipment, you can then verify that the equipment is there, it's in working order, and so on. And so there's a more tightly coupled flow between the inventory and the grant. Then you can have loans. So you can create the loan amount, the interest rate, the term, the first payment, and then the software will create an amortization table and a loan payback schedule. And then you can indicate that each payment was paid, the date paid, the check number, and the amount, and you can record the loan payback for the loan. There's a closeout process. The closeout process is both for both the internal and external user. The anticipated completion date will tie into the alerts, so you will get automated email alerts telling you that your closeout process is coming due. You can also record project outcomes, whether the project was on time, on budget, on schedule, on completed on time, and and then you can also attach electronic files as well. So that is the grant tracking capabilities. Next, I will go into the inventory module. So the inventory module has been completely overhauled. So it's been completely redesigned. Fundamentally, it still does the same thing. It's still asset management, but there is many new capabilities for each inventory item. One of the main differences in the new inventory is that you can differentiate inventory items by type. So you can have different types. So you could have vehicles, homes, office equipment, furniture, IT equipment, and each one of these types can have a completely different set of forms. So vehicles can have make, model, VIN number, IT equipment would have make, model, serial number, and so on. And so you can have completely different forms based upon the type. And then when you go into a particular inventory item, you have the associations. They can be associated to organizations, applications, and grants. And then there are many dedicated components that come standard with the software. There is an acquisition component. There is a maintenance component. There's a disposal component. There's a monitoring report where you can submit periodic status reports on each inventory item. So there is expenses. You can record the expenses on inventory items. So it's been greatly enhanced, and there's many, many, many new capabilities and features for inventory. If you are a program that needs to track assets or has a need to track inventory, the new version is greatly enhanced in this particular aspect. Next, I will go into the reports. So the formatted reports, so these are the new paper reports. So the paper reports in the old version, were not really that great, but in the new version, they are really good. So there is a lot of features and capabilities here, and we are always adding new reports to the system. And so you can click on a particular standard report, and that standard report will have filter criteria, so you can filter it by program area, funding opportunity, status. You can sort the information, and you can export this data to HTML, PDF, Excel, and Word. And so here we can generate the report, and this is kind of the standard look and feel for the reports that are generated in the new version of the software. And both the paper reports, the ad hoc reports, the data-only reports, they all look the same. So they all have the same look and feel regardless of what type of report they are and how they were generated. Next, we have the ad hoc reports. So here, these are reports that you yourself can create. You can add any number of ad hoc reports to the system. The ad hoc report also has a filter screen, but you can then define the report. And this is very similar. You add fields, and you go through a little wizard, and you can add fields from any aspect of the system. So we can click on a particular module, and then we see the forms. We can click on a particular form, and then we see the sections and the fields, and you can select whatever fields you would like to add to your report. And then you would say save fields to report, and then those fields would then be associated with your report, and then you could edit that list, and you could change the order, the label. You could group and aggregate the data. You can sort ascending, descending. You can filter the data equal to, less than, greater than, not equal to, like, some kind of value. You can insert subtotals and grand totals. And you can do mathematical formulas. You can do add, subtract, multiply, and divide between any of the fields on your report. And then, of course, you can export this data to Microsoft Excel. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you is the utilities module. So the system administrator has many of the same capabilities, but there are enhancements here. So alerts management, there are more alerts that come standard with the software than in the current version. So there's more alerting capabilities that are available in the system. The drop down, the form create.
I mean, I don't even know how to use the current system. Yeah. So to hear them talk about what's changed, I mean,
Is that a question?
Somebody's not muted. Does somebody have a question? Okay.
Okay. So the form creator has been greatly enhanced. So there is there's a separation now between single form documents and multiple form documents. So here you can modify the people profile, the organization, the awards, and the fund sources. And then on a per program area basis, you can modify the funding opportunity, application, review, grant, and so on. Now, these numbers that you see here, these are how many forms are created in that category. And so you can kind of see, kind of like an administrator dashboard, how many forms have been created by each program. And so here we can click on a particular value and we can see the forms, and you can add a new form. And then we can click on a particular form and we can see the sections and the fields, and then you can add a new field. So when you add a new field, this is the form that allows you to add a new field or modify an existing field. Here you can enter in the field order, you can show or hide the field label, the database field name, the data type. There are more data types that are available in the new version. You have text boxes, rich text boxes, percentages, dates, drop-downs. You can make the field required or optional. The field size, they're now standardized. So you can't kind of make up your own sizes. They're kind of standardized so that they look better on the form when you edit the form. You can have a maximum length, and you can also have a countdown counter, so you can see how many characters are still left when the user is typing. You can have field security, field view. You can disable fields. You can have a placeholder, a default value, an input mask if you want data in a particular format, an output mask if you want data obscured, that is encrypted. You can spell check. You can have calculations. You can also do something else that is not in this demo, which is you can do software development, business logic right in the form creator. So this is something new. It's a little bit difficult to describe, but it's a really great feature because it eliminates the need to do many customizations. So for example, like let's say that you wanted a pop-up message on your form if this value is too high or too low, or these two values don't match. Like let's say you have a subtotal in one section and a subtotal in another section, and you want those two subtotals to match, and if they don't match, you want a pop-up message to the user, something like that. In the current version, that would have required a customization, but in the new version, that can be done by the creator itself. So it's a little bit sophisticated. It does require programmer knowledge, so it's not something that any system administrator can do. But what the great benefit that it offers is that you can just insert that directly into the form creator, and there's no customization needed. So people can do all kinds of things. They can change colors. They can make things bold, spontaneously. They can move things around on the form. A lot of capabilities and features are available with this new enhancement, more than I can get into right now. So I will move on. There's conditional logic. You can do conditional show. So if you answer a question in a particular way, a whole bunch of new questions will appear. Conditional required. If you answer a question in a particular way, a whole bunch of questions are required. Validation. You can make things greater than or less than or not equal to another field, so you can do conditional logic between fields. Conditional reject, you can eliminate the document from being submitted if a threshold is too high or too low. You can display the field on its own line or on the same line as a prior field. You can hide it on preview, insert a section header label. You can do instructions above the field, to the left of the field, to the right of the field, and below the field. You can do tooltips upon hover, and also online help text as well. And so there's many other capabilities and features in the form creator that I'm not going to get into right now, but that's been greatly enhanced. The last thing I want to show you is the user roles. There are many new privileges. So like I said, I think that there's like 140 or something like that now, so quite a lot. And you can pick and choose those and assign that to the role. So okay, so that is the end of the demo. Just real quick, I do want to show you the external user just real quick before I stop for questions, and I will show you the external side. So just real quick, the external user also has a dashboard. So the external user has the approaching due dates, recent negotiations. You can have external site visitors and their funding opportunities. They would see the funding opportunity. They could ask a question, copy an existing application. We can click on a particular application and edit that application. And then we can just really quick, we'll just click into the application, and you can see the changed external user experience. Here you can see that they can tab between the sections of the application. You can edit, and here you can see that, there's like new countdown counters that look like this. There are different types of drop-down list boxes, like multi-select drop-downs are now button-driven, as opposed to holding down Shift and doing a that weird, way that you had to do a multi-select. It's now mouse-driven, which is really nice. You can have single drop-downs, and the multi-list forms. This would be a multi-list form. Here you could add a row, and you can have multiple section forms and grids that look like this. So this is the kind of the new features and capabilities of the software. Okay, I will stop now, and I can answer any questions that you may have.
Kristen, I think you had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do. And Tom, thanks for the demo today. I put this question in the chat. So I work for Department of Public Health, and I know we may be one of the larger users in Iowa. I'm not really sure, but I'm the help desk person for IDPH. We take a substantial amount of calls during the day, and also get emails for certain things. And one of the things I noticed is that in this new our test system, the organization and grantee and grant tracking, those links are gone. But I noticed you had that in this system, and I thought, oh, that's great, because that's something I noticed was missing in the new system. And that's something we use almost every day. And it can take a phone call that might be, like 15 minutes long down to like a minute or two, just because often what happens with us anyway is somebody might call in and not really know which organization they work for or listed in the system. So for example, our local county health agencies, they might be listed as Warren County Public Health in one area, but then listed as a Board of Health in another area. So if they give us their grant number, I can go in, put that in, click on their organization, and just add them right then and there. And I don't know if other people use that feature, but we use it every day. And I was really sad to see that go away. So just wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that I understand your question, because I don't understand what went away. On the external side, there is a module called My Profile, which indicates, which shows the individual their profile and the organizations that they belong to. So I don't know, Tina, do you know?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
So in the current version that they use, when you do, say, a grant tracking search, you can use the link to go to the organization information, the person information, or when you get into the grant, in the grant general information, you can click on that, and that is a link that takes you to the organization.
I understand.
Contact.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's what she's asking.
Yeah. So we did take that away. Yeah. So the reason why we took that away, and maybe there's a something that we could do to help you out. But the reason that we took that away is because it made back button navigation really difficult, because it kind of created a spider web of pathways that you could navigate in the system. And customers were constantly submitting issues to us with the back button. The back button is not taking me back where it's supposed to take me back to. And the reason is because it's so complicated. You can get from point A to point B 10 different ways, and it's very difficult to get the person back to where they came from. So we took away all of that secondary navigation as in a way to eliminate all of that frustration that customers were giving us. But as a consequence of that, it looks like we've created a new frustration, and that is that you can't get to that information readily. So there may be another way of handling this problem for you. If this turns out to be really problematic for you, there may be another way of handling these issues. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, that capability is not there in the new version, and the reason that we took it away is because it made navigation really difficult, and people were constantly submitting issues on that topic.
Thanks, Tom, for the explanation, and thanks, Tina, for helping. Yep, I'm definitely talking about from the system admin perspective, and yeah, that capability. I just noticed that, so thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? We did have one in the chat that I can answer, Deb. They're wanting to know basically launch time frame for the new version.
Yeah, I saw that question, and I saw that you threw it to me. Thanks so much. I'm not sure. I mean, we want to go as soon as we possibly can, but does it have to do with our testing and how that's coming along?
Sure. I mean, so really, it's more an internal discussion, Deb, and we did have this discussion on the meeting, but you weren't there last meeting. But
yeah, sorry.
We were like, no, but we were like, you guys need to take it inside, because there are, there is more than just the pilot. So if the pilot goes well, we need to get all the programs on here and then have them test and, figure out the system too, and then look more closely at a launch date. I know the discussion was, are we launching around, year end or new fiscal year? And yes, I mean, we definitely want to do that. We want to get you on there as soon as possible, but we do have some other testing because we started with a pilot testing. So now we have
right
on all the other programs and have them test and go through the testing. We've done a lot of corrections currently. So when we do the next migration for all programs, it should go much smoother and quicker. So
okay, so yeah, we'll discuss that as a leadership team and probably along with you, Tina, and we'll try to get an answer to that. But we do want to go as soon as we can. So yeah, we can discuss that. There's another question in the chat, Tina, about integration capabilities, such as with Salesforce. Salesforce is not a statewide program, so that is not something that we would pay for. DOM through the normal appropriation process that we have. I don't know if it's something that College Student Aid could work specifically with DOLAS, or if you guys even do that, Tina and Tom.
We have other integrations with Iowa that is agency specific, that it's not, an integration across the board for all the programs. If that is something that you want to look into, we can certainly see what the capabilities are. A lot of times it's more on their end. We're willing to integrate, but they won't necessarily let us. But I believe Salesforce, Tom, we do integrate with Salesforce.
Yeah. We have in the past. So that's something that we're somewhat familiar with. And we can certainly do that. Like Tina said, it doesn't necessarily have to be statewide in order for us to integrate with a system. It could be on a program area basis or an agency basis. There could be an integration at a certain point for a certain form that integrates with a back office system. And so yeah, I mean, that's certainly something that we can look into and do.
And then Julie, from your side, then what happens is you would sign a statement of work with DOLAS specifically, and then your agency would pay for that, but you can use the master contract and the rates that are set out in the master contract for that. So IEDA does that all the time with DOLAS. And I think public health has some too.
And GTSB also. So yeah, I mean, it's
yeah, that's right.
Possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.